So let's get into the genes loading the gun. This actual phrase came from Bruce Lipton, and he wrote the book Biology of Belief. So if you're a nerd like me, about over 15 years ago, he's a PhD, and he wrote the book Biology of Belief. And the premise of the book is that 97% of all the diseases that are out there are things that we can actually control and reverse. And so it dispelled the whole myth behind if mom had breast cancer, then all the kids are going to have breast cancer. If dad had, heart attacks or heart disease, then everybody in the family is going to have heart disease. It dispelled that completely. And yet we still have a group of people who get this drilled into them from their doctors that, okay, if you have breast cancer, then, mom had it, then you're going to have it. So you need to go out and preventatively chop off your breasts because it's going to happen. So might as well just do it. And over a decade, probably maybe 2 decades ago, I actually had patients just in fear, brand new patients that came in. Mom had breast cancer. So boom, I'm just going to go out. And she was like, just had a baby. And so went out, chopped off her breast, and this became a fad. In fact, I think it was even on one of the famous talk shows. I'm saying famous talk shows where they were actually electing to do this and pushing this. And so I want to unpack and just kind of show you guys how this really is a lie. We are actually, according to Harvard Medical School research or special report, the human genetic potential is for 120 years of life. Now think about this. We actually have like a life expectancy that we're told of like 77, 78. And if Harvard Medical says that there's a genetic potential of 120 years, we are literally shaving off a large percentage of where the grandchildren, right? The great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren. It said, why would the Bible say a good man leaves an inheritance to his children and his children's children? Why would it say that if we couldn't do it, right? In fact, if you think about it also, if you read in the Bible, Moses actually was 120 years when he climbed a mountain, and it says, neither was his natural force abated nor his eyesight dimmed before he went to be with the Lord. He was 120. That meant he climbed a mountain. He had to be strong physically, right? His eyesight was perfect. I'm claiming that in Jesus' name, right? His eyesight was perfect before he went off to be with the Lord. And he didn't even have the covenant that we have, right? We have the better covenant with Jesus, right? And so there's a lot to say about us being able to live to 120 years. And if you look at the animal kingdom, there's this life cycle of stages. So we've got conception. We can't really control necessarily that a whole lot. Development, maturation. There's a lot of things in that we can't necessarily do a whole lot to control, but decline and death. So these are like the 5 stages. And even though death may be inevitable, the duration of an individual's lifespan is this unknown thing. And really, it's the decline part that is so much in our control, right? What if you could get older but not age?
I'll take some.
What if you could get older and not age? We've actually, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the, speaking of not aging, what do you think about that one? This is somebody that's getting older and not aging, right? And then there are others who actually get older but then do age. Same movie characters and everything, right? But look at the difference here, right? Getting older and not aging. Like if you saw him in the last movie, he still runs just as fast as he did in the earlier movies, right? You watch and he does all of his stunts. And so what we know is that, and what we've seen is that, I wanted to show you this piece right here. In the decline aspect of things right here, this is a place, this is the space where we want to know what is it that we can do to control that decline aspect of it. I actually watched this. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this study, but I watched this study where they had lice and they had it in a container. So just imagine I have like a glass, like what is a canning dish? Like a mason jar. But imagine it's like half the size of the normal, like a half-size mason jar. And they did this, I watched this, was powerful. They put lice in this, put the lid on it, and they left them in there for 3 days. Prior to the lid going on, the lice would jump out of it. They were just getting all over the place. They were jumping out of the jar. When they put the lid on, 3 days of the lid being on, when they took the lid off, suddenly they wouldn't jump out. They would only jump the height of the jar. Okay? Then the babies that they had, the same thing. They would only jump the height of the jar. So if you think about it, is it possible that we have been conditioned to believe some of these lies about our lifespan? Is it possible that we've been conditioned in the cartoons our kids are watching are being conditioned, the television shows and the news channels that we're watching, the commercials in between all the different TV channels that we watch? Is it possible that there's a whole lot going on in the world, in Hollywood, every movie that we watch, that we are being conditioned with the lid on to buy into our potential is really just this much? And so I would just submit to you that in 2023, I think it's very important that we not partner with anything that is not from the Lord. And we might have to wrestle with a few things. Sometimes we come into these workshops and we might have to wrestle with a few things on what is it that we're partnering with. I'll throw myself under the bus because I talk about this all the time. What are we partnering with? My kids and I, we actually do a goal setting session at the end of every year. So we usually spend about 4 days and we unpack goals. The first day is all about reflecting. So we think about like all the things that happened previously in the past year. We journal about it. We spend some time in the Lord and we then share. What is it that the Lord did in you? What are some things that didn't go so well? And for me, last year, if any of you guys know, my husband actually had his fingers cut off. And so, through the trauma and through the healing and through the pain, my husband decided he's not doing any pain meds. And so we had no medication at our house and no fingers and reattached and pins, and it was a nightmare. And so through that process, I was right there with him, up all night, crying all night, praying, shouting out to the Lord on my knees. Like it was just a travail, And I actually, somewhere along the way, started to adopt this partner phrase. And I would say all the time, I am so TIRED. I'm not going to say it because I'm saying it anymore. And I was saying, I am so TIRED. I am TIRED. I was saying, and it got to the point where even when I was sleeping through the night again, I was saying, I'm so TIRED. And so I was wrestling with this with my kids when we were doing our goals. I said, guys, this has become my phrase. And if you know me, this is not at all how I am to walk around. I'm the energetic one. You see my husband, but you don't know, I'm way more energetic than he is. And so my son goes, Mom, I think your word for the year needs to be revitalized. Revitalized. He goes, let's look up the definition of revitalized. And so I was like, I think there's something there. And the word was contrary to the thing that I was partnering with, which was a lie, right? And so I pulled a word, and that's what I've been speaking and saying to myself every day is I am revitalized. So I'd submit to you guys, go home and think about what is it that you've been partnering with that you don't want to partner with anymore. Is it a diagnosis? Is it a fear? Is it a phrase like I have? What is it that you're partnering with that's not from the Lord? And I would wrestle with the Lord until you get it and find a word, find a phrase. My kids, all of them, everybody in my family came up with their word. Find that thing that can anchor you for the year and help you propel forward, even if what you look like and what you're in maybe doesn't match it at the time. Because the Bible says to call those things that are not as if they were, right? And so that's what we want to do And I feel like that's one of the things that can help us go from like, do we age gracefully? Do we age like we get older, but maybe not age? Or are we doing it this way? What are the words that we're saying? So to define DNA is really your genetic code. It's the thing that makes you your color of your eyes, the color of your skin. It's that genetic code, right? The RNA, which is very popular in the news right now, we're hearing a lot about RNA, but think about RNA as your messenger that takes the signal, it takes the instructions from the DNA, and it's a messenger talking to and making proteins and telling all the rest of the organs what the DNA says that you're supposed to have. Does that make sense? So it's like, go to the skin and tell it to be this. Go to the heart and tell it to do this. That's what the RNA does. So identical twins. I don't know if you guys know this, but identical twins on average die 10 years apart from each other. 10 years apart from each other. They have the same genome, divergent lifespans. Again, that dispels the whole genes, determine your destiny, right? That dispels that. So if your genes don't determine it, what does? There's a study out called the agouti mice study. These guys are identical as well. You go back to those twins. I have a friend, a very good friend of mine who lives in Idaho, and she has identical twins. And one of her identical twins last year got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. They're 12. Type 1 diabetes, not the other one, the one. Again, dispels the whole, your genes tell you exactly what you're going to express. These guys are identical, these mice. The agouti mice rat study basically took these two mice and they fed them two different diets. And one of them got a good diet and the other one got a bad diet. The bad diet was fed to the one on the left, and that allowed the agouti gene to express. That wasn't a gene we wanted. And that expression, that gene, when it got expressed, it set that mouse or that rat up to, that mouse up to having cancer, obesity, and diabetes. Those three diagnoses. And it cut its lifespan in half compared to the one on your right, which had the dark fur and was more muscular and healthy. So they fed this one the good, healthy rat chow and the other one the bad rat chow. And look at the expression of these identical twins. What happened? Again, very powerful. Dean Ornish, he actually did a powerful study. And what he did was he kind of utilized the 3 essentials that we have. Do you guys know all 5 of the essentials? Who does not know all 5 essentials? Everybody know what the 5 essentials are in the office? It's our health delivery system. And so we have a health delivery system. And the first one is what? Can anybody tell me? Chiropractic. What's the second one?
Nutrition.
Okay, nutrition. I'm testing everybody now, right? Third one is what? Mindset, right? What's the fourth one? Oxygen and exercise. And what's the 5th one? Minimizing toxins. So in our office, what we do when we deliver health is we deliver health packaged in these 5 essentials, right? And so what these guys did was they took the 3 middle ones. They took the nutrition and he took exercise and some kind of meditation type stuff. So he took the 3 middle ones. And what he found was 48 genes had been turned on and 453 had been turned off. So a total epigenetic effect of 501 genes triggered solely by the positive lifestyle changes the men had made. That's 501. Again, genes load the gun, but it's the lifestyle that allows these things to pull the trigger, good and bad, right? So some genes we want to turn on and some genes we want to turn off. And so 501 genes completely change. This guy I love this one. He's got a book called Soul Medicine. The whole mind, will, and emotions, right? Soul medicine. And what he did If you can look at that picture right there, those are what we call telomeres. Can you guys say telomeres? Telomeres. And telomeres, they actually, your cells, I'm going to give you the stat here. At the age of every cell that you have in your body is equal to the length of the telomere. You guys get me? So the age of every cell is equal to the length of the telomere. They get 1% shorter every year you're alive. Hang in there for a second. 1%. So just imagine that guy up there, right? Getting 1% shorter. It's in every one of your cells every year that you're alive. The unhealthy habits cause them to shrink faster. But here's what's cool. Here's what this guy did with his book, Soul Medicine. He actually put them on a think right, eat right, and act right. So again, that's essential 2, 3, and 4, right? Think right, act right, and eat right for 3 months. And what he found in 3 months is that his subject the telomeres stopped getting shorter, and they actually began to lengthen. Now let me go back. What did we say? The cells, the age of the cell is equivalent to the length of the telomere. So now what did he in fact just do? He caused you to go what? Reverse your aging. This is proof that you can age backwards. And hang on, one more piece. 10 months later, 10 months of thinking right. Guys, think about this. You're in the office here and you're following the 5 essentials. If you've been here for 10 months and you followed the 5 essentials, let's say you haven't even done all 5 of them correctly. Maybe you did 3 good, right? In 10 months, what happened was the telomeres almost 3% longer and reversing, that actually showed cellular aging being reversed. Powerful? That means that you being in the office just makes you age backwards. I'm claiming that one because of the whole IMTIRED. I'm claiming the 120 years. In fact, I want to be like Moses and be caught up in the air. The Lord and I have been talking about that one. So think right, eat right, act right. This guy, a signal from the environment activates expression of that gene. So this guy showed how the environment comes in, sends signals in, and the brain is that modulator. The brain's the modulator. So the brain receives the information and then it sends it where it needs to go. So if you look at the difference, these are identical, but their environments are different. The difference in them? They're totally different, right? You wouldn't even think they were the same from the same family or anything at all, but their environments were different. And there's a field of study called epigenetics and nutrigenomics. Say nutrigenomics. Nutrition, genes, right? They're showing how nutrition affects your genes. Oh, wow, like a new field of study. They're finally talking about the stuff that we've been talking about for a really long time. They call it nutrigenomics. And here's something very powerful. This is what nutrigenomics essentially really is, and everything that we're just talking about when it comes to your brain modulating information, okay? If you feed your body this bioactive broccoli that's non-GMO, right? A bioactive, I'm saying non-GMO for a reason. Everybody get me? Non-GMO. What does GMO mean? Genetically modified. What's the last word? Organism. Kind of gross, right? So we feed it organic, non-GMO broccoli. Imagine the switch is your brain, right? So the brain receives the signal of this broccoli. And what it does is it talks to the DNA of your body and it tells it to release. Remember the RNA, messenger, release. Release antioxidants, release detoxification enzymes, release other protective compounds based upon the input that's coming in for the environment. The brain sends the signals out to the body. Now it will also do this. Right? It will also do this. So when we put in those cheeseburgers from Whataburger, I hate that place. And I'm telling you, Chick-fil-A also, even though a Christian started it, right? It doesn't make it any healthier. I'm sorry. So when we put in that cheeseburger, what we're essentially doing is we're training the brain that disease now becomes your normal. Your brain will learn to have disease because you're now telling it that. It resets the thermostat, right? And so then what happens is instead of the DNA sending out those signals, it's actually sending out inflammasomes, inflammatory cytokines, cytotoxins. So now we've got this inflammatory response going in the body, and it's really because it's responding to the environment. You guys get that? You see that? Very much in our control. Here are some beautiful things that we can do that get that switch right there to turn on and tell our bodies to do what it's supposed to do, which is, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? In the image of God. He set things up perfectly. Guys, he doesn't need any help healing. He just doesn't need us interfering with the healing process he set up. And listen, we are living our lives interfering with it every day. We're inundated with the mason jar, cap on there. Here's what you're supposed to eat. Here's what you're supposed to do, right? We're inundated with that piece, right? So we've got the carrot with the eyes. We've got the pomegranate with the estrogen and the ovaries. We've got the walnuts for the brain. We've got the celery. It's in the shape of a bone, right? We've got all these others in the shape of a bone. They're good for the bones. We got the avocado for the uterus, the shape of it. We've got the clams for the testicles. We've got the grapefruit and the lemons for the breasts. We've got tomatoes. Do you guys see how they model the chambers of the heart? It models in nature, right? And so if we want to flip the right switch to express the right genetic expression, then we've got to put in the right signals so our body will actually respond and treat it properly. Do you guys understand? You see where I'm going? Resveratrol, the antioxidants in the blood, the ginger for the what? The shape of the stomach. The alveoli in your lungs, grapes. Powerful. Powerful. We're so fearfully and wonderfully made. It's just amazing. Now, that's the reason why we have two eating plans. One's the core plan, one's the advanced plan. This whole nutrigenomics is the science behind the things we've been talking about, right? And if you're a person who needs to heal from something, then we would have you on something called the advanced plan. If you don't need to heal from something and you want to maintain your health, then we put you on something called the core plan. And what you'll see is, look at the life that's in there, right? You're talking about no grains. Why no grains? Why no grains? Anybody know? Because grains turn to sugar, and if you're trying to heal from something, you got to remove that sugar. Look back at the agouti mouse study. What did he have? What did the mouse have? It had cancer, diabetes, and obesity because of what it was fed. The other one didn't have it because it wasn't fed that. And this is the kind of stuff, if we put grains in there and we're trying to heal from something because we have a diagnosis, then this is the diet we want to follow. The 65% healthy fats. Why? Because those healthy fats will actually help our body, our brain, our nerve system to heal, right? The next one, no damaged fats. What does that mean? That means, what's a damaged fat? Give me an example.
Seed oil.
Say it again.
Seed oil.
Give me a specific, though, what people would. Give me another one.
Canola.
You guys know that's a lie, right? It's so tricky. They say canola, and then next to it, they'll say vegetable oil. It's like, what? You tried to make that a vegetable. No. There's nothing about that that is good. In fact, if you have it in your house, don't give it away, throw it away. Go home and replace it with the top 3 oils that you should cook with. What are they? Olive. What else? Avocado. What else? Coconut. Those are the 3, top oils that you should be cooking with, right? Go replace it with that stuff. 25% naturally raised animal proteins. This is going to be very important that we pay very close attention to this stuff, because the agenda, which you're going to see later, of the World Economic Forum. You can look it up, go to World Economic Forum and type in 2030. The 2030 agenda for the World, I'm saying World Economic Forum. The 2030 agenda is that protein will be a delicacy that we will get once in a while, and we will not need anything. We won't need homes. We won't need appliances. We won't need, cars. We won't want for anything because the government will just basically tell us what we can have and not have. So it's going to be really important for us to even learn how to get healthy cattle and start to learn how. We're going to have to go back to the way we're going to go way back to the way that we were raised and not rely so much on everybody else doing it for us. And do you guys hear where I'm going? That's not what this talk is about, but I'm very passionate about this piece. You're going to see a whole lot more about this. It is literally out there. That's the plan. 2030. And if they get what they want, then that's when the 7 years of famine will begin. So we've got 7 years now to get ourselves sorted so that we know what it means to eat healthy, how to raise good foods, because they don't want us to have access to this, which is why you've done such a great job in your gardening. We had a gardening class in here. And for those of you who didn't come to that class, you go back and watch that. Going home and just learning how to do it in your apartment, little things to grow things in your small little space, just so we can get back to that. Preserving seeds, learning how to make sure you have all the seeds because we're going to need that in the 7 years. Go back and look in the Bible. This is a repeat pattern of what we've seen in the Bible. And our job, our mandate from the Lord is really to equip you guys to be able to do this. Okay? Make sense? The other piece on this is 10% low sugar fruits and vegetables. So remember, advanced plan is about healing. If we're trying to overcome and heal something, that's going to be the reason. Again, nutrigenomics, changing your genes. Your nutrition will change your genes. The core plan, that's going to be many healthy fats. So you're going to do your healthy fats, no damaged fats, naturally raised animals. And now in this plan, the difference is you can have, I would like you to stick with ancient grains. If you don't have a diagnosis, then ancient grains. And what are ancient grains? Give me some examples of ancient grains. It was stuff that didn't take 5 minutes in a microwave. Einkorn. What else? Yep. What else? Millet, buckwheat. Guys, ancient grains are the grains that take a little while to cook, and they're more hearty, and they're not as sweet. Okay? Do you guys know what I'm saying? Like if you white rice, you can walk in your house and smell white rice, and you could be like, man, I'm on crack. Like you need a fix right now. Like the sugar, you could smell it. But if you walked in your house and you were cooking something that was einkorn, millet, you were cooking some of these heartier, heavier types of grains, different story. In fact, your kids would go, no, I don't want that. That's going to be the ancient grains. Those are the things you want to do when you have healed from your diagnosis. Then you may go back to that. I have my patients that come in from Africa that come see us. And we have a clinic in Zimbabwe. And so one of the famous foods, or the kind of the most common food that they have in Zimbabwe, is called sudza. And sudza is it's like a brownish kind of a grits looking. And that's all they had. But when they came into the nation and decided they wanted to bring GMO and stuff into the nation, they turned that brown, more of a nutrient dense, mixture, grits like, into like a white, container of like white rice. And it was sugary. So suddenly now we not only have a third of the population with HIV, but now we've got heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Because the only one meal a day that they had was sudza, and now we've messed that up. You guys with me on that? So core plan is going to be that ancient grains, and you can have all fruits and vegetables, a variety. But remember, we want them to be non-GMO, right? We want them to be organic and non-GMO. If you can find a partner with a farm at the farmer's market, that's going to be your best bet, because we really want to support those farms and those farmers who have really taken it hard. And we want to support them as we are ourselves. If you start to learn how to grow your own food, you'll realize it's not that easy. You know, it's something that you need to learn how to do. And so that's going to be what we want to do for that. Now, the next section I want to shift into is about your genes and your nerve systems. Remember, we talked about the signals in the environment, right? And how your brain is the modulator of that information. The brain is the interface between the environment and the genes of our cell. This guy, his name's Dr. Sherrington. What he did was he won a Nobel Prize in 1906, and his Nobel Prize was about how the body wants to maintain a homeostasis, and it will learn how to be sick. It can learn how to be sick based upon its environmental stressors. Now let's read this, what it says right here. The thalamic neuron theory. So because that's his thing, is all about the thalamic neuron theory. It says here, inherent in its capacity to learn and adapt is the central nerve system. So write this right here, the central nerve system's ability to learn, guys, to learn to be sick by deranged central neural circuitry leading to chronic disease ill states. Let me break it down and make it real simple for you. What is the deranged neural circuitry that causes you to learn to be sick? What is it? Starts with an S, kind of a long word, ends with a shun.
Subluxation.
Say it again louder.
Subluxation.
Subluxation, the deranged neural circuitries, right? So your spine being out of alignment is called subluxation. When your spine is subluxated, you send the wrong signals to the brain. It's going to reset to come into homeostasis. So it's going to allow you to set up this learn how to be sick state. You with me on that? So we want to be right. We set it at 72. We want it to be set at 72. If the spine is in perfect alignment, straight up and down, right? No angles. We don't have any of this stuff going on. Then we know the brain can talk to and send the signals down through and get all the way to the uterus, right? If from the side view, I have the 45-degree curves, just like we talk about in here, we have 45-degree curves, then the brain has nothing blocking it from getting all the way to the uterus. I'm going all the way down here just so you can kind of see the whole pathway, okay? And so we are healing and adapting at 100%. Yes? Yes or yes? Is there anything that we can't heal from when the spine's like this? There's nothing you can't heal from because we're fearfully and wonderfully made. That's how he set it up, right? And so what we can see happen is subluxation. So this is an image of subluxation. Now here's the problem. This is the really big problem, guys. We think that when we have subluxation that it hurts. Do you know 60%? You have to lose 60% for you to even hurt. You get, right? So you're walking around with subluxation where the brain is that interface to tell your body whether you're going to express the diagnosis or not. And maybe you don't even feel pain, right? And so then what we have is we have this aging and dysfunction thing that shows up, right? So aging and dysfunction. So now we're telling, because it's going to, what did we say? Learn to be what? Sick. Learn to be sick. Because it's going to maintain that homeostasis. Well, if the circuitry coming in is not getting the signals, then it's going to send out to the body, learn to be sick. You see all those different areas. Maybe it's your knees, maybe it's your feet, maybe it's your hips, maybe it's your heart, maybe it's your lungs, right? It's going to learn to be sick, guys. Do you see that? And so these pathological states can be reversed. Amen. Can we say amen to that one? Can be reversed through the adjustment. That's the adjustment that we do in the office. That's why it's so powerful. That's why when you go in the room and Dr. Michaela adjusts you and she says power's on, it's because the power is on. It's so powerful. The power's on. Modulation of the abnormal neural circuitry by physical means. These pathological states can be reversed through the adjustments. through the adjustment. The spinal cord as the organizer of the disease process. This area, this thing that's right inside the vertebrae, this thing right here, it literally organizes disease. Guys, it organizes disease. When they did all these studies, all they did was the three. They did the nutrition, they did the mindset. They didn't even put all imagine. There's nothing that the body can't heal from when we pull all 5 of the essentials in there. You guys with me on that? Super exciting. Look at this lifespan. Getting the signal from the nerve system. Boom. Our lifespan dependent upon these signals. So when we don't get our kids, our babies, our grandkids in here right away and get them checked, we are determining their destiny, their ability to live to their full potential. You know what my kid said the other day? My daughter had cotillion. And do you guys know what cotillion is? So it's where you're teaching your kids like manners and all the things about life. And so they were doing the waltz. The girls wear white dresses, they wear white gloves, and, you know, like they're just dressed up like they're in their gown, right? And my husband, got to dance with her, do the waltz at the end. But prior to that, the boys that are in there, they dance, they partner dance, right? And so it's funny because my husband was sending pictures of my daughter's 12 and the other boys were 12 and my daughter's 5'10". I just think about that for a second. She's 2 inches taller than me and she's 12. And so my husband was posting these pictures on our little family chat thread and Zachary goes, well, that's because the kids haven't been adjusted. They're all 4'10". They all haven't been, she's like, they all haven't been getting adjusted. But it's funny, but it's also kind of true, right? Because if your genetic expression was 120, your maximum potential was 120. And what if your maximum potential was to be 6'3"? But you're subluxated because the spinal cord is the organizer of disease process and you only get to 5'3". Have you reached your full potential? Now the thing you see is that maybe parents are both tall and you're short. But what you don't see, right, because you can see the height thing, but what you don't see is what's going on the inside. You guys with me on that? So important. So lifespan, getting the signal from the nerve system, it's the control system there, getting that from there. The frontier research topic said the health of the central nerve system is equal to the rate of your aging. What does that look like to me? You guys know when we show you guys about the phases of degeneration, right? We show you these phases. Normal, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, these phases of degeneration. When the spine comes in these phases, when we get to that phase 3, it wants to rot. You guys know that, right? Because once it gets to that phase 3, it's like you bit an apple, you put it in the trash can and all the flies, it wants to rot, all the flies, right? The spine wants to do the same thing, which is why it's so important. If you got here late, stay consistent. Do your rehab. It's going to hurt maybe because you got a lot of arthritis, but you got to press in because the brain is the modulator and the central nerve system is the modulator of disease. You guys with me on that? So when we get people in those earlier phases, we can get them back to normal. Because we just talked about aging backwards, didn't we? Talk about anti-aging, going backwards. This is the best anti-aging that you're ever going to get. Loss of proper curves. If you look here, see how the spine is like straight up and down right there in that picture? In the arrow in the middle, see how it's pointing to the white? Do you guys see where the white is on there? That's where the spinal cord is dying. So you'd get an MRI and they'd point an arrow to that area and they would call that like phase 3 demyelination or something like that. That spinal cord is dying there. Well, how important is that? Because we're talking about right here. So if the brain has got to get the signal through this to get to my heart, to my kidney, to my digestion, to my male and female reproductive organs, how important is that little section? Segmentally, it speaks to the thyroid. It also goes to breasts, right? You guys see what I'm saying? So when you get your x-ray and your re-x-ray and you're seeing it's not, that's where we press in. That's where we press in and we don't miss our appointments. And some of you have actually, some of our patients have gone too quickly to like every other week when their spine still has so much degeneration in it. And this just shows how important that is to make sure that we stay plugged in so we can get that connection, the neuronal connection. That's the reason why we go through this process here, this spinal correction process. We say this in jest, kind of, that we fix $25 joint adjustments. Why? Because when they take them in there, there's no x-ray. When you go into the joint places, there's no x-ray. They're going to take you, you're going to pay $25, they're going to rotate you left, right, up and down, everything that can crack they can possibly, and then send you on your way. And then we have to fix you. Because when you come in here, we take x-rays, and you're not getting adjusted every one of those. If you're like this, why would I adjust you further that way? I'm trying to bring you this way and bring you upright. Does that make sense? Like, why would I do that? And so we've got to fix that piece. So we go through that mix, fix, set, cool down, eliminate. This entire process is customized to you to get your body back to the way God designed it so that you can age backwards so that this organizer of disease has the best chance so that disease never happens in your body. We have that best chance to do that. If you haven't seen this yet, this is called our ServaGuard. It's a new rehab that we have in the office. It's helping us get cervical spines corrected 30% faster. And so another one of our rehabs, what you will see in this office is we are committed. Every time there is something good out there, you're going to see it here. We're going to bring it here to the office. We're going to help you get your spine back faster and better and healthier than ever before. So this is the ServaGuard. We can see kind of some x-rays. Just if you look at the first two, this is the x-ray before, and this is in the ServaGuard. You can see how it's kind of going reversed here. And look at the 42 head forward. There's no head forward, and look at the beautiful curve in that one. And this is after only a couple weeks. They went from a 42-degree head forward posture to a 15-degree head forward posture, only after a couple weeks. And so this is another powerful thing that we do. Remember, the brain is a battery. The brain is a battery. And so as long as your spine is in alignment, then it can charge the battery. And so when we get adjusted, we're charging that brain so then the modulator can talk to the rest of the body the way that it's supposed to. This is a really powerful picture. I love this quote. You don't stop moving because you get old. You get old because you stop moving. Think about that one. That's kind of the opposite, right, of what we think, right? You don't stop moving because you get old because you stop moving, right? I noticed that this time when I kept saying I am TIRED, that our workouts were a mess. Like they were not consistent. Like we're CrossFitters and we're not in the gym anymore. We've got our own little, workshop that we do. I would get on the floor and I was doing my sit-ups and I couldn't get my butt up off the floor. Like it was hard to get up. I was like, oh my goodness, like 6 months of this process of what it does to us. And then what if I would have just partnered with that and never resisted that, right? Like, what is the moment? What is that thing that we partner with, that lie that it steals us from her? Now, this is David's mom. If you guys have ever met her, she's in the newspaper literally all the time. She is now at her 957th day of doing a 5K every day. So she's 79. And she only started this when, I don't know, I think it was maybe 10 years after we had been in practice. Because the first 10 years, she didn't want anything to do with anything we said. And finally she called and she said, I'll never forget this. She called and she said, she's like, what do I need to do? Just tell me what to do. And so we said, well, cut out the Dr. Peppers. She liked the Dr. Peppers. And we said, go on advanced plan and do it. Cut out the bread. She likes to bake, so she makes a lot of bread and stuff. It's tasty, but it didn't like her joints. She was so bad at, she's 67, I think. She was so bad, she couldn't even open the door to get in and out of the bathroom because her hands were so crippled up. And she does origami. And so she couldn't open the door. She was so bad. Her knee, she called it a basketball knee, like getting up and down, like she felt really old and bad. And so we just told her, we said, just do the advanced plan. Just do it for 30 days. Cut out the sodas, cut out the bread. Just do it for 30 days. She got adjusted. I gave her some breathing exercises and I had her start moving. She finally was like, wow. She grabbed a girlfriend, started walking down the street. Pretty soon walking down the street turned into like a slight, jog. And then it turned into a 5K and she's never stopped. And so she's run several marathons, but she was doing it in her 70s, you guys. Like this, she started debilitated, crippled up, literally on her way out. And she's turned it around. She's 79 now. And look at this. This is 900 and some odd. Does she look 79? No, right? Crazy, crazy, crazy awesome. So if you can't exercise, that's the reason why we have the hyperbaric. If you haven't been in the hyperbaric and you want to try it, we do have one free trial. You can try the hyperbaric to see. But oxygen is so important. Movement is so important. If you can't get there, you're not there yet. Say your health isn't giving you that ability to be able to move the way you want to. Oxygen in the hyperbaric chamber is so important to be able to help to heal. So minimizing toxic loads, these are just a couple pictures, your makeups, your cleaning products, your air, the jab, cigarette smoking, the foods and stuff like that. Peace management, we want to make sure we wrap that up. And one more section I want to show you about genetic testing, and then we're going to wrap it up right after that, okay? We do a test in our office called metabolomics. It's this kit right here. And inside here is blood, urine, and saliva. The saliva is the portion of the test that tests for genetics, okay? And so what I wanted to show you is 4 slides that explain the genetics. So remember we said genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. So the saliva portion of this test, you never have to do again. It gives me your genetic makeup, right? The urine and the blood portion tells me whether you pulled the trigger. Genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. And then we know what specifically we need to do to turn that off. Do you guys with me on that? So this first one right here is called ApoE. I want to just show you, see the 3 and 4? 3 and 4, that would be mom gave me one gene for ApoE and dad gave me the other. This is one of the highest risk factors for cholesterol regulation. And so what this would mean for a person who expresses this because of their lifestyle, we just said it, right? What are the things in your lifestyle? 5 essentials, right? So if they don't live the 5 essentials and they express these genes, that's where cognitive impairment comes in, dementia, Alzheimer, multiple sclerosis, and stroke. Okay, you with me? So if you are having problems with your memory, if you're having problems with, going down that road of like, I don't even remember how I got from one point to the next, or, what's the name of this, or what, if you're having problems in that area, we want to know, do genes load the gun, but is my lifestyle, am I sneaking, sugar? Am I hiding Dr. Pepper? Am I going crazy on bread? Like, am I eating Snickers bars? Am I drinking alcohol? Those are all those things that pull the trigger. You with me? So this one will express those diagnoses. MTHFR. MTHFR, what we see with this particular one, how many of you have heard of MTHFR? Okay. So with MTHFR, if mom and dad give you a gene snip for this and you pull the trigger on that, then you can end up with issues with blood clots. Fertility issues are big. So a lot of the women that I work with that want to get pregnant, this is important because if you have this gene snip, you don't have to have fertility problems as long as we don't pull the trigger on the lifestyle issues. I have a lot of, so far, let me just say 99%. So far, 99% of our patients who wanted to be pregnant have been able to get pregnant. And I can't think of anybody who hasn't just yet. But I'm going to give it 99% because we've done testing, we get them adjusted, we do the 5 essentials on them. So again, this particular one, if it expresses itself, psychiatric disorders, breast and ovarian cancer, blood clots, and fertility issues. The third one here is COMT. And COMT is your catecholamines. And your catecholamines are your stress hormones. And so if your body can't properly clear those stress hormones when you encounter them, then you can actually end up with issues like nervousness. That person who's just got like nervous all the time and anxiety. Nervousness and anxiety. Things like breast cancer, maybe a reduced pain threshold, fibromyalgia, and chronic pain syndromes can show up from this particular genetic expression. Make sense? The last one is TNF alpha. And what that means is tumor necrosis factor alpha. So if this one is activated and triggered, then we can get things like infection, inflammation, oxidative stress. It's kind of important to know during this last couple of 2.5 years, closer to 3 years now, right? Environment where people getting infections and lung infections and things, right, over the past few years. Autoimmune diseases, insulin resistance, obesity, cancers, asthma, skin, depression, bipolar, multiple sclerosis. So these are in this particular test right here. And so this test right here will, if you do the genetic SNPs, will tell us that, but you only have to test it once. And then again, the blood and urine portion of that will tell us what we need to do to fix it if we've turned that on or triggered it. And so this last piece is just pictures of people who've actually turned the genes off. They've been told, you know, that they would have all these different diagnoses. Mom and dad had this and that. And these are the miracles. This is part of the miracle wall. This is not, but this is why it is a lie. Believing that you're doomed to have these different kinds of genetic diseases. These people right here are all the miracle people who have actually turned it around and their bodies have healed from everything. There's nothing I haven't seen not heal. And so we can finish up today, you guys. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it was encouraging. And if you need to pick up anything at the front desk, my team will be here for you. So bless you guys.